Hi everyone, Dr. Liz here. Welcome to the Hypnotize Me podcast. I'm glad you're here and hopefully it will help you with your journey along the way. I've been an entrepreneur for most of my adult life. I built an award-winning company that was a household name in South Florida, then sold it and then focused mainly on my private practice as a psychotherapist, helping people feel better. I specialize in hypnosis techniques for anxiety, sleep, emotional healing, some habit change. All of my experience gives you a unique perspective. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Dr. Liz Bonet, Bonet. Another way is to buy one of the downloads that I have for sale on my website, drlizhypnosis.com, DRLIZ hypnosis.com. I only have a couple up there, but they're really good ones. They've stood the test of time. And if you're looking for some free downloads, subscribe to the newsletter. And you'll get free hypnosis downloads to reduce anxiety and to increase emotional stability. You can listen to those immediately. Start helping yourself today. But listen to this episode first before you do that. Another way to support the podcast is to rate and review it on iTunes or Spotify or wherever it is you're listening to it. That always helps me get found by people, which helps me help more people. So you're going to help me help more people. I'm going to wrap this up. Enjoy the episode, and I hope to see you back here soon. Today's interview is with Tami Stackelhouse. Don't you love that name, Stackelhouse? She runs the Fibromyalgia Podcast, and she's written 2 books on fibromyalgia, Take Back Your Life and the Fibromyalgia Coach. So we definitely talk about fibromyalgia on this episode, which affects millions of people, overwhelmingly women over men, as well as some chronic pain process, like what happens when you're having chronic pain and what kind of support can you get, and like where's your personal responsibility versus acknowledging that you have a chronic illness that I don't believe you cause. I may be the outlier there with a lot of psychologists or hypnotherapists. Hypnotists get even more extreme about that than your general psychologist or psychotherapist. But I don't believe we cause our chronic illness, and I don't believe we cause our diseases from an emotional standpoint. I never have, because I think it carries a lot of blame with it that I don't think is very productive. I just want to say that up front. I hope you are healthy and safe. Peace. Tami, welcome to the Hypnotize Me podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Good. Why don't you tell the listeners how, like, just the start of your journey? Like, you're here to talk about fibromyalgia, ways to heal, but tell us how, like, what happened at the beginning?
Yes. So if we go way back, I was one of those kids that just always seemed to have something wrong. It seemed like we were going to the doctor for something or another every few months, you know, and when I look back now, if I had been a kid now, not so much in the 70s and early 80s, but now I'm sure I would have been diagnosed with depression and IBS and maybe even fibromyalgia at a young age. So that's kind of really where it all started. But my fibromyalgia diagnosis, I worked at a stressful job. I managed the call center for a software company. So anytime the phone rang, it was because somebody had a problem. I had like 13 people working for me. And that was just a lot of stress. And in the process of that job, I started noticing like I was just tired all the time. And I would think, oh Lord, if I could just like turn off the lights and lay down under my desk, like I'd probably have the best sleep of my life, right? So that was kind of where all of that started. And even though this was like my, late 20s, early 30s, I would go home and I'd be sore and I'd be achy. And I thought that was just, I must be getting older, right?
Yeah.
Late 20s, early 30s.
A little bit early to get older, right?
Right. So, I really was trying to kind of find out what was going on with me. And at the time, with my employer, me working for them and my insurance through them, I had an HMO. And HMOs are great when you fit in their box.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But when you don't fit in their box, they really don't know what to do with you. And so it wasn't until after I got married, got on my husband's insurance, got outside of that box that I finally got my fibromyalgia diagnosis. And that was in 2007.
Okay. And then what happened?
Well, I left her office with like 3 or 4 prescriptions to go fill and a list of supplements to buy.
Okay.
And for the first couple of years, I mean, I will say I don't think I really got worse, but I didn't really get better either. So I felt a lot like I was basically just treading water.
Okay.
And
was there a sense of like validation though?
Oh, for sure. Oh my gosh.
At least someone knows what's wrong here.
Yeah. I mean, I had been looking for, at that point, probably close to 10, 15, 20 years.
Wow. Wow.
And so, yeah, it was a lot of validation for sure. I cried all the way home from that first appointment, not because of getting the diagnosis like in a negative way, but because I finally found somebody who knew what was wrong with me and knew what to do with me.
Yeah, some relief. Yes.
Yeah. And I just, it was one of those things where I just randomly picked her off a website, and turned out that that was a subject that she had taken particular interest in and had done extra study on. So it was definitely a divine thing that I ended up with her. Yeah.
I think sometimes that happens. Like you happen to get the person who knows what it is you're struggling with and knows what to do about it. Yeah. I mean, obviously there's all those doctors you saw before, right? But you weren't going to her thinking she knows about fibromyalgia.
No. In fact, that was like my purpose for the appointment. Like I wanted to get this diagnosis, and I prepared like I was going into battle.
Yeah.
I wrote out like, here's all the things I've tried. Here's all the things that have happened to me. Here's all my symptoms, and some of that can be really helpful, right? And can be really good. But my intention and my attitude in building it was, I'm going to give her so much evidence that she can't not believe me. Right?
Yeah, and for my younger daughter, I actually saw a comment on TikTok about putting together a medical notebook. And so I did, when we were really trying to find some answers about what was going on with her, which ended up being central sensitization syndrome after like 14 doctors in about condensed is about 2 years, but really it's longer than that.
Oh yeah.
but yeah, I had a notebook. I had it tabbed, right? Like blood tests, endoscopies, colonoscopies, like ultrasounds, like the kind of testing. And then these are the medications. And this is the doctor she's seen. Yeah. I had a whole notebook.
Yep. And that can be super, super helpful.
It can.
But like I said, the feeling that I had going in, I think so many people can relate to, where you feel like you do have to, like you're going into battle just to go get help from a doctor.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of friends who are doctors. So, I love my doctors, but they're also just totally not prepared for this. One of the statistics I ran across recently was that here in the US, our med students only get about 9 hours of pain management training. That's not fibromyalgia. That's not chronic pain. That is all.
Wow.
Pain.
Wow.
9 hours.
Wow. It's not a lot.
No.
Yeah.
And especially when you think about, that includes everything from acute pain, right? I broke my foot and now I need some pain management or chronic pain, and then that doesn't include how to treat the illnesses that are causing the pain either.
Yes.
So,
well, I think often in the system in the US, they refer, right? The specialist then knows how to treat that. So then you get referred to the specialist and have to wait 3 to 6 months. There's one specialist that they had referred me to for my daughter who, it was a year out to see them.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, just isn't acceptable, like
no
shape or form. Yeah.
And a lot of those things, there just aren't enough of those specialists either. I mean, that's part of what the weight comes for, but even like just proximity, right? Like,
oh yeah. Right. I was in a huge metropolitan area like South Florida. Yeah. I have no idea if you're in a less populated area, you're either driving or it just doesn't happen.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So she diagnosed you and then you sort of maintained for a couple of years. And then what happened?
I had one of those moments, like we sometimes do where like your life flashes before your eyes and you're like, I don't think that's the life that I really want. I was just sort of picturing everything from here is like downhill, and that was not the life that I wanted. So I made another appointment with her, went back and saw her and, basically told her that like everything that like the medications that I'm on, like we're not making enough progress. I'm ending up with side effects. Like this isn't the direction I want to go with my life. What else can we do? And that's when she introduced me to a health coach. She had just had a health coach who started working in her office like within the last couple of months. So, another divine moment. And I started working with that coach. So my doctor didn't actually change anything about how she was managing me at that point. It was really just starting to work with my coach. And 6 months later, my life was totally different.
Really?
And I think the big thing for me, and I see this with my clients as well, is that there are so many things that we know we should do. Right? Like she's telling me you need to have a better sleep routine. You need to wake up and go to bed at the same time. I want you to try going gluten-free, like all the things, right? But how? How do I actually do that? How do I actually accomplish that? And, implementing that into my life, how do I change these bad habits? How do I make new ones? All of that. And so working with my coach, even though she didn't know anything about fibromyalgia, it was still somebody to be like, okay, I was up again until 2 a.m. How can we figure this out? What do we do differently? Holding me accountable, brainstorming, troubleshooting, all of that. And it made such a difference having that kind of support. And so, like I said, 6 months later, I was in a much different place. My pain was a lot more managed. I had a lot more energy. I had made, obviously those changes we were working on, right? So I made some dietary changes, did a lot of stuff with my sleep. So I'm sure that all helped too, but I couldn't have done those things without her help,
It's interesting. Yeah, I've thought of starting a new business recently called the troubleshooter or the problem solver. Because I feel like that's half of what I do sometimes.
Yes.
What exactly do I do if, I can't fall asleep? Okay, well, let's talk about that. Let's troubleshoot it, because it's individual for people.
It is. And sometimes it's completely not the thing that you think it is, right? So I actually just yesterday recorded a podcast episode for my show, the Fibromyalgia Podcast, if you're curious. And one of the things I talk about in there was the fact that when my doctor wanted me to go gluten-free, one of the big struggles I had was just making dinner.
Yeah.
And I kept picking fast, easy things. And so doing that troubleshooting with my coach, one of the things that came out of that was, my counters are piled with stuff, right? Those, you come in the house and you set it down on the counter, right? And so, of course, I'm not making dinner because there's no clean counter to make it on.
Right.
Right. So sometimes we think that it's, oh, what kind of resistance am I having? Do I just not want to do this? And sometimes it's as simple as the counters aren't clean.
Yes, right. Yeah, we tend to sort of blame ourselves and look internally, and sometimes it's just a real practical issue.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Fantastic.
Right.
So she helped you do all that. At what point were you inspired to write your book? You have 2 books.
I do have 2 books.
Tell
Yes.
the listeners what they are.
Yeah. So my first book is called Take Back Your Life. And that one we actually just did a second edition of a couple of years ago. So even though it was my first book, it's the most updated one. So thank you.
Yeah.
And then the second one is called The Fibromyalgia Coach. So the first book was really written to capture all those things that I had learned along the way. So I started working with my coach. When would that have been? Early 2009.
Okay.
And after 6 months, as I'm feeling so much better, I'm like, I want to do this. I want to help other people this way. So that's when I became a coach, and then wrote my book about 6 years into coaching. Okay. So I had a lot of, success with clients. I'd figured out a lot of stuff myself, and wanted to capture that because I knew there's millions of people with fibromyalgia. I can't help them all. Right. So how do I share this information with, people that I can't work with one-on-one? Yes. And so that's kind of how that book came about. And that first book, Take Back Your Life, is really all of that information. It's my story, my clients' stories, but it's also really practical things where we talk about addressing the sleep issues, the pain, the fatigue, the brain fog, working with your doctors, all that.
Yes.
So that's the first one. And then the second one was kind of written because of a conversation I had with a client. She had gotten to a point where she had improved quite a bit, but she also kind of was stuck. And the more we talked about it, the more she realized that it was really her job was sort of keeping her stuck. Right? The demands of her job and how stressful it was and the travel she had to do. And all of those things were kind of keeping her not as well as she wanted to be. And so the Fibromyalgia Coach is really these 8 key questions that you can ask yourself and to think through what kind of a career do you need to support your health and your healing, right? So what do you need physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, all of those things to actually feel your best so that you can have a job that actually helps you feel better instead of a job that helps you feel worse.
What kind of job is that? I don't know. I'm laughing, but it's my job would fit into that category. It helps me feel better instead of worse.
Yes.
But in general, what have you found for your clients?
For me, it's coaching, but I do think it's a little bit different for everybody. My husband and one of my clients, who I just love, she says, I don't want to be a coach. I just don't like people that much.
Yeah.
And my husband is an extreme introvert. He's like, yeah, no. So for some people, just that social part, for instance, for some people, that social part is really important. They could not have a job where they weren't interacting with people, right? Yeah. And then my husband's just the opposite. Please, take the people out of the job. That's the worst part. Yeah. So I think it really matters. And, some people, depending on, even though they have fibromyalgia, some people feel better if they move more. Some people feel better if they move less. And so it's really, as you work through those questions, you're really just discovering, what do I need, right? I need a job that, is the same. I like routine, or I need a job that's different all the time because routine is boring, and figuring those things out to be able to know, as you're looking potentially at your own job or another job you're looking at, that you can say, oh yeah, that would not be a good fit for me, or that one would be a good fit for me, or what can I change about my job because these things don't actually help me feel my best. So can I, work with my company to change my job description or have work accommodations? But I think for a lot of us, especially when you have something like fibromyalgia where your health and your life might be a little bit unpredictable, sometimes working for yourself is the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
Because I get to control when I work, how I work, who I work with, where I work, my hours, like everything I have control over. And that really can make a massive difference. And I see a lot of people coming to me for my coach training for basically that exact same reason. They want to have a work situation where they still feel fulfilled. They're still, making a difference in the world, but they're able to better control that situation so that it helps them feel their best.
Got it. So is it a job that allows for breaks and rest and sometimes flare-ups?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. When I very first started coaching, I actually did it sitting in my bed with my laptop and my cell phone. And I wasn't all the way better yet. I mean, I was significantly better, but I wasn't all the way there yet. And, that was one of the things that I really thought a lot about was if I start working with people, like if a client pays me, I need to make sure that I can actually fulfill that.
Yes.
Right. So I don't want to just vanish on them. And I figured, first of all, I would do everything virtually at that time. I mean, that was 16 years ago. So no Zoom, but we were just on the phone. Right. Yeah. And I figure I don't have an office. If they don't have to come see me, I don't have to see them. Even if it's a bad day, I can pull it together for an hour to have a conversation with somebody on the phone.
Yeah.
Right. And of course it's progressed from there, but that really was the thing. A coaching call is 45 minutes to an hour, and you can have those as close or as far apart as you want. You can do an hour and maybe that's all you do all day. And so if it is one of those days, like I said, you can pull it together for an hour. Or if it's not, we're also working with people who get it. Most of my people have fibromyalgia, and we're working with people who have fibromyalgia. If I have to tell a client, I am in a total flare today, I need to reschedule, people understand because that's what they're dealing with too. Obviously, you don't want to do too much of that because then why are you helping me if you don't?
Right. Yeah.
But, for a time to time, or if you need to adjust things, like I said, have as long a break in between as you need, all of that.
Okay. And at the time you got your coaching, your health coaching, was there specific training for like health coaching?
Yes. Yeah. I actually have 2 health coaching certifications.
Okay.
So that was the training that I went through, but they were just general health and wellness coaching, right? Yeah. There wasn't anything for fibromyalgia until I came along and made that. So all of the fibro knowledge was just like all my own research, all the books that I read, the conferences that I went to, the learning, practicing on myself, right? What I learned with my own fibromyalgia. Yeah. And so that part was, a little harder one, but yes, I have a health coach certification as well.
Got it. Okay. And so like, when's the best time for someone to see you?
I have worked with people who don't even have a fibromyalgia diagnosis yet. And I've worked with people who have had fibromyalgia for decades.
Okay.
So I think it is easier to get people results the closer you are to your diagnosis. So as soon as possible, because the longer you go with, how do I want to say it? Because you are going to be getting some treatment, but maybe not the most effective treatment, let's say. The sooner you get that effective treatment, the easier it is to actually end up pain-free for most people to have your fibromyalgia in remission. The longer that we go with any diagnosis, right? The longer that we go without adequate treatment, the worse things get, right? Just the complications of the illness and everything else. So I would rather see somebody right away, but really any point. I think it's really like the point where you decide that your current reality just isn't good enough.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Whether you feel like you want to feel better or you want to find better doctors or there's something going on and I need to track it down because there's like a missing piece, right? Or you just want to, I've had a lot of people come to me, actually 3 or 4 specifically come to me because their first grandbaby was being born and they wanted to be able to be there and to help and to be really involved and active and weren't physically capable of that, but wanted to be.
Yes.
And so like working towards that specific goal. I've helped a few people move. I haven't packed boxes, but but I've helped them plan, like, how do we do this? How do I get the right help? Finding doctors at the other end, right? All of those kinds of things. So I think like I said, I think it's really whenever you get to that point where you just, it's not good enough and you are out of ideas, your doctor is out of ideas.
Okay. And I'm assuming like you can spend a lot more time with them than your typical doctor can.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I've heard that anywhere in the world, actually. Not just the US, but NHS as well. It's like, they have limited time to spend with you.
And even if you do get a whole hour with them, right? Like a coaching call is about an hour, you're not seeing them every week.
Yeah.
Right. You just can't, like their schedule won't allow it. And you're probably can't, figure that out either. So
they're not really set up for that.
No. It's also not the best use of your time with your doctor either. Your doctor is not really there to hold your hand and help you figure out how to go to the grocery store and buy foods that are gluten-free, right? Like their job is to diagnose you, to write those prescriptions, to make those medical recommendations. But that's not really their job to, like I said, hold your hand for the implementation of it. And I think that's where, health coaches can really be a huge part of our medical care, right? Because we do need that help. We need that hand holding. We need that, troubleshooting, strategizing. But that's also like when you think about all the people who might need your doctor's help, let's use their expertise for what they're best at and use people like coaches for what we're best at.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. So it's like you really started when coaching was not a really big thing back then.
No, it wasn't.
But now you have like great experience. Like you're one of the more experienced coaches, most likely, I'm assuming.
Yes. A lot of times when I tell people, next year will be my 17-year anniversary.
Yeah, it's a long time.
People haven't been doing that long.
Right. Yes, exactly. And do you get a lot of people from your books? Like they read a book and one of your books and says, "Hey,
I'd like to schedule." I get a lot of people coming through my book or who have, done a Google search and found the podcast more often than anything else is actually the podcast.
Yeah.
Because I think, when we get a diagnosis that we don't fully understand, right? We do the research, most of us, right?
Yes.
We go out there and we do that little Google search, what the heck is fibromyalgia or what are fibromyalgia books to read? We'll go on Amazon and search for a book or we'll pop on, Apple Podcasts and look for a podcast, right?
Yeah.
And once we find a resource, I mean, I'm sure this is true for a lot of your guests and maybe even you, that when people find a resource that they resonate with, that just like, she's my person.
Yep. It's very true. Yeah, definitely. In my life, I've experienced that in terms of professionals I found and also people experience that with me. Yeah, they tell me that. Like, I listen to the podcasts. I really liked your voice. It's important often when you're doing hypnosis. If you don't like the person's voice, forget it, right? Myself included. Sometimes I'll put one on and I'm like, yeah, no, this isn't working, So, or I'm given information about some of my experiences in my life that they resonate with. Like, yeah, she's going to get this. So I don't have to, explain it to her or end up feeling like she doesn't understand.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You don't have to feel like you're going into battle, right?
Yes,
like
right.
I did with my doctor.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no battle there. The only battle is as a team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am realizing that we didn't even define it at the beginning.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to clip this in at the beginning. But can you tell, so let me pause for a moment. Can you tell people what fibromyalgia is?
Yes, yes. So fibromyalgia is a chronic pain condition, and we've got 4 main symptoms. There can be other things too, but these are the 4 biggies.
Mm-hmm.
One, of course, is widespread body pain. If you don't hurt, it's not fibromyalgia. The thing with fibro pain, there are 2 big things to know about fibro pain. One is the fact that it is widespread.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's just one body part, less likely to be fibromyalgia, and it moves around. Mm-hmm. So your legs might hurt one day, your neck might hurt another day, your back might hurt. It moves around. Mm-hmm. The other thing about fibro pain that always, the older we get, the more we have overlapping things.
Yes.
And so that trying to figure out, is it this or is it this, can sometimes be tough. And so the thing I look for with people is fibromyalgia tends to act like an amplifier. It will take whatever other pain, fatigue, whatever you have, and it will turn the volume up. Mm-hmm. So when you stub your toe, if you don't have fibromyalgia, your toe will hurt. Mm-hmm. And then after a while, it'll go away. But with fibromyalgia, you'll stub your toe. Next thing you know, everything hurts. Right? Okay. So it's that amplifier. It hurts more than it should. Mm-hmm. More places hurt. It doesn't go away as fast. Mm-hmm. that is more fibro pain. So widespread body pain. We have unrefreshing sleep. So you'll think that you slept all night long, but you'll wake up and still be exhausted. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? And then we do also, of course, have fatigue. Some of that, of course, is because of the bad sleep, but there is, we can see that there's some mitochondrial dysfunction and a few other things that mean that our energy doesn't work quite like it should. Mm-hmm. And then the 4th one is the brain fog, right? Mm-hmm. The cognitive dysfunction where you walk into a room and can't remember why you're there, or you lose your words, or slow reaction times, things like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So those are the main symptoms. And unfortunately, as much as we know about fibromyalgia, there's a lot we don't know. So we don't totally know what that disease mechanism is, what's actually happening. We're seeing pieces of the elephant, as I say. We can see bits and pieces of what's going on, but we still don't have a whole picture of what's going on. The science really isn't there yet that definitively shows us this is what's happening. Uh-huh. And so it actually lives in the College of Rheumatology, so it falls under rheumatology, but it's really not a rheumatological illness. It's really more a central nervous system issue. It's a pain processing issue a little bit more. So, it's kind of a disease without a home, because the rheumatologists are like, yeah, no, it's not really rheumatology. Mm-hmm. And the neurologists are like, I didn't learn about that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I have quite a bit of knowledge now about central sensitization syndrome. And originally I didn't realize that a lot of things fit under there. And fibromyalgia can fit under there. Yes, new daily persistent headache, where you just have a headache that doesn't go away, fits under central sensitization syndrome, because it's like the pain starts getting referred, you get more and more sensitive. And part of the treatment is to help your body get less sensitive, actually, to keep doing things, to start being active. But, it's always so hard, because you have to find the balance, right? You don't want to cause a flare up, but you also, it's not recommended that you lay in bed all day with a flare up either. So it's okay, where's that balance between living your life and having some activity and supporting your health. And it does become a real balancing act for people with chronic conditions.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And there's no like one size fits all either. Like what you would do to feel your best is going to be different than what I do, which is part of what makes this all so hard,
Yes.
right? Everybody kind of has to figure out their own way. It's not, you can't just follow somebody else's recipe.
Yeah.
And so, how much you move, what kind of movement you do, all of that. But I think another piece of this that is really important, same thing with central sensitization, is we have to teach our bodies how to not be in pain.
Yeah.
They've gotten so used to, it's like, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yes.
Right. So for our nervous system, it's like everything looks like pain.
Right.
So we've got to break that pain cycle, teach our bodies how to not be in pain. And it takes time to do that.
It does.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this isn't something that's going to happen in days or weeks or even months, really. It's going to take years. That doesn't mean it's going to be years before you can have some improvement.
Yeah, thank God, right? Yes. Thanks for throwing that in. Right? But it is a long-term process. Yes. Yeah. It's not we don't have short-term fixes. That's why it's called chronic pain. The short-term is acute. Acute.
Yes.
So you may have an acute symptom actually that flares up, but yeah, the general feeling better is a long haul process.
Yes, it is.
And takes support, I would say.
Yes, for sure. And, when you're dealing with something like fibromyalgia that has, the brain fog component, the fatigue component, we can't think well enough to figure some of this stuff out. When you're in a flare, you can't think. Like, that's how it works.
Yes.
So to be able to find your way out of those situations, like it does often take somebody else on the outside who has a clear brain, who has the energy to be able to see the whole picture and say, even if as a coach, all I do is tell you what you told me, you can't think of it in that moment.
Yes. Right. Yes. It's so true. And I think sometimes, even realizing that is a step for people. Like, oh, I really need some help here. Like, I'm not thinking clearly. I need someone to help me do the thinking part. Yeah, that's a step, because when you're not, it sometimes doesn't occur to you. So like we were saying, some synchronicity sometimes has to happen where you run across a podcast or a website or a doctor that knows what they're doing and knows about this. And yes, you find the coach that you need. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay. And also, I think for some people, it's hard to accept help, right?
Yes.
Like, oh, I really need some help with this. Oh.
It feels like that's failing somehow, right? Like if I can't do it on my own, then there must be something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, well, yeah, there is something wrong with you. You have fibromyalgia.
Right. Yes.
But that doesn't mean it's a moral failing, right?
Correct.
Like you're not a bad person or whatever, just because you need help. Like we all need help. As human beings, we're supposed to be doing this together.
Yes.
Right? So it's it's tough. And I think the other thing too about, you've probably seen this yourself, but it's so easy to blame people for their own illnesses, right? Yeah. It's like, what did you do to cause this? Or what haven't you done?
Yes.
It means you're still stuck here. Right?
Yes. It's so true. And it's really disheartening, I think. And people, I know from personal experience, start to think that themselves. Am I not doing enough? Did I cause this? Is this my fault? I think some emotional processes have some physical expression to them. We're depressed. We don't have as much energy. We don't have as much happiness going on. But I've never believed that we are causing our own illness from our emotional processes, even from trauma. Like there is a higher overlap between people who've had trauma in their life and chronic illness. but I don't think like that's your fault, or like
No.
somehow, you're not doing enough to cure that or clean it up, or no. It's like people find the help they need and the resources they need at the time that they need them, and at their own pace and, let's say, ability too, right? Like there's financial ability that comes into that. Mm-hmm. There's actual physical ability that comes into that. It takes some time and energy to seek out professionals, or sometimes even to listen to a podcast where you don't fall asleep during it, right? You hear the end. So, or a hypnosis file. I mean, if you fall asleep during a hypnosis file, it's totally fine. But, there is some of that process that goes on. And so, sometimes people they'll ask a question a certain way or something where you're like, oh, they're judgy, right? Or they're blaming. And it's like, no, it doesn't belong in the space.
No. And I mean, and of course, this is not, negating personal responsibility either.
Right.
But I think most of us really are doing the best that we know how to do, or the best that we're capable of. And we just need that help.
Yes.
There, like you said, there are a lot of limitations on our ability to access stuff. You're talking about finances and some of those kinds of things, but culture, right?
Yes.
Sometimes there's a huge cultural piece to this, or, I've worked with clients who lived in the middle of nowhere. I personally grew up in a town of 2,000 people. It was an hour and a half to my dentist.
Wow.
So, I mean, when you are in a situation like that, when, Amazon 2-day delivery takes a week.
Yeah. Right.
And there's one doctor in town, it really does make it a lot more challenging. Mm-hmm. And I think as patients, it is our responsibility, and it is our job to make sure we are as educated as possible about our illnesses, because this is where it all stops.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
My doctor can tell me what to do, but I still have to go do it. Right.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. There's some personal responsibility. Like, you didn't cause it, but what can we do to help you and help clean it up? Whether it's emotional, physical, help move into a space where you feel healthier, you feel better. That's the goal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Better, period. Yes. So, Tami, tell people how to find you if they like to find you, and say the titles of your book again here at the end.
Absolutely. So the Fibromyalgia Podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts. I do also have a YouTube channel. It's actually Fibromyalgia Wellness is the YouTube channel. And then we also have a blog. So if you prefer reading, some of us are still a little old school and prefer reading. I'm one of those. But we have a blog at the Fibro Compass. So it's just fibrocompass.com. Podcast is fibromyalgiapodcast.com. And the two books, Take Back Your Life and the Fibromyalgia Coach, they are available as free downloads on the podcast website. But you can also find them on Amazon. So if you prefer reading Kindle or paperback or whatever, you can find those there as well.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for being on the podcast, sharing your wisdom with us and some tips for our listeners.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Good. I hope you truly enjoyed today's episode. I work all over the world doing hypnosis, so if you're interested in working with me, please schedule a free consultation over at my website, drlizhypnosis.com, and we'll see what your goals are and if I can be of service to you in helping you reach them. Finally, if you liked today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast or tell a friend. That way, more and more people learn about the power of hypnosis. This podcast is not mental health treatment, nor should it replace mental health treatment. If you need therapy or hypnotherapy, please seek treatment from a trained professional, such as myself. Have a wonderful week. Peace.